Good morning, afternoon and evening. This is StrawHat Logbook and today we turn the pages of the logbook back to pick up where we left off with romancedawn. We will be reviewing, analysing and theorising based on the true version of romancedawn, whilst also trying to find an answer to the age-old question, is Shanks evil? Now, since we are looking back, there will be spoilers. If you haven't watched the first one, I suggest you catch up with the rest of us. If not interested, then that's okay too. The story, of course, begins with the execution of the one and only pirate king, Gold Roger, and his infamous words sending the world into a pirate frenzy. Now, as far as storytelling goes, this prologue of sorts is beautifully crafted by Oda. This single page sets a scene and the scale of things to come. The moment we are done with the page, we know that the objective is going to be finding the Pirate King's treasure, and that it won't be easy with the whole world after it. We then skip forward 12 years and are introduced to the settings of the first chapter. A small harbour village named Fuchsia Village, literally Windmill Village, of Goa Kingdom situated in Dawn Island of East Blue. The first pirate ship and Jolly Roger we see in the story are that of the red-haired pirates. The Jolly Roger has two crossed swords instead of the typical bones, and the skull bears Chief Shanks' characteristic scars over the left eye. Now, this ship is similar in design to that of Crescent Moon galleys from romancedawn version 1. But this is not the ship the crew used to come to Marineford. They instead used the much larger Red Force. Next, we are introduced to our lovable goof of a protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy. And to anyone who says One Piece is for children, show them this panel. This panel of a 7-year-old boy stabbing himself under the eye with blood spewing out. The next few pages show us the dynamic between the pirates, especially Shanks and Luffy, and what drove the boy to do this to himself. We see that Shanks has a sea-loving, party-throwing, adventure-seeking group of men for a crew. More than the adventure and the parties, the part of the pirate life that seduces Luffy the most is the freedom they enjoy. This freedom is what drove him to hurt himself, believing that it would prove his toughness and that Shanks would finally agree to take him to sea. But why was it that Luffy was so excited by the idea of freedom? As far as we know, Luffy was born in Fuchsia Village to Monkey D. Dragon and an unknown woman and was left in Garp's care. Allowing myself to speculate, could Luffy as a very young child have been held captive along with his mother? One Piece has a history of mothers suffering for their children, whether it be Bellamere dying to save her adopted children, or Windsmoke Sora risking her own health so that her children could be born with emotions. So the questions are, what if Luffy's mother had to suffer similarly to ensure her child's survival? What if she was held captive and later murdered by the world government? There is a popular theory that Garp is Luffy's maternal grandfather and not Dragon's father. The world government may have captured Luffy's mother to lure in Dragon, but after failing to do so and their actions resulting in her death, Kong or Sengoku probably decided to spare the child to provide solace for the marine hero Garp. Maybe we learn about this during Dragon's flashback, but the way Wano's endings has been rushed, I do not have high hopes. Anyway, back to the review at hand. Though the crew are welcoming to Luffy's advances, Shanks is adamant about the boy being 10 years too young. As mentioned in the previous installment of RRR, that is, Retrospective Recap and Reviews, Shanks is being a hypocrite here. He was around 9 years old when he was part of Roger's crew, or it could be speculated that the whole experience was maybe too traumatic for him. With Roger's many battles and untimely death, that Shanks has decided not to have any children aboard his ship. As Ben Beckman tells Luffy, Shanks may have been just looking out for the boy, as the sea is so full of dangers. This point is further driven into our minds by Oda-sensei using the Sea King, the Lord of the Coast. The main antagonist of the chapter, Higuma, with all his wisdom decided to escape into the open sea using a small boat and Luffy as hostage. But he is soon dwarfed as a danger to Luffy when the Sea King appears and smashes the boat, eating Higuma. It would have been a very quick and very dark ending to One Piece had it not been for Shanks. Coming to Shanks, as promised, we will be answering the age-old question, is Shanks evil? I believe that Romance Dawn is the perfect chapter to look for an answer to this question because this is essentially the only proper Shanks chapter to date. Before we dig deeper in search of the answer, let's understand the origins of the question, which are two. 1. Headcanon, and 2. Chapter 907. This chapter ends with a meeting between Shanks and the Gorosei, and Shanks ominously stating that he wanted to talk about a certain pirate, which may or may not have been Luffy. Now to analyze Shanks' personality with the little that we know of him, we look at two of his dialogues from this chapter. First, he just got some grog on me. That's all. Needless killing doesn't make you a man. This was said in response to Luffy's outburst after Shanks laughed off Higuma's actions against him. In contrast to villainous thoughts of revenge, this dialogue presents a grounded, civilized and diplomatic response. And this diplomatic side is probably why he was able to fend off Kaido from interfering at Marineford without an out-and-out fight, and also why he was granted an audience with the Gorosei at request. Violence and slaughter are the ways of evil antagonists in One Piece and not shrewd diplomacy. Dialogue number 2. You can pour drinks on me, you can throw food at me, you can even spit on me. I'll just laugh it off. But good reason or not, nobody hurts a friend of mine. This is a threat issued towards Higuma and the fellow bandits after they hurt Luffy. This panel and dialogue are two of the most underrated in One Piece. The aura that exudes off the page from those eyes. It all shows that Shanks does have a dark side, but a side that comes out when his loved ones are hurt. Not for meaningless violence, nor for devious and selfish plans as we would see from a Kaido or a Doflamingo. Now, going on a slightly unrelated tangent, less than 5 pages away from this awe-inspiring, fear-instilling Shanks, we have this panel of Shanks losing his balls. Show this to anyone who takes One Piece too seriously and does not agree that it is a goofy pirate manga with a capital G. Back to topic. Analysis of these two dialogues and his general presentation in Romance Dawn suggests that Shanks is not evil. This is reiterated by almost all his appearances other than the one in chapter 907. And even in chapter 907, he may have been there to talk about Blackbeard as he had been on Moby Dick 2 years prior. Staying with Shanks, Romance Dawn sets the precedent for Oda's foreshadowing with this panel of Shanks' death stare scaring away the Sea King. It's only in chapter 519, during Luffy vs the Snake Sisters on Amazon Lily, that this death stare is revealed as Conqueror's Haki. It is during this arc, in fact mainly during this fight itself, that we get clearer glimpses of armament and observation Haki, which become deciding factors in fights all through the New World. We had, of course, seen them in use before, with Garp being able to hurt Luffy with his punches during the return to Water 7, and of course Enel, one of the most prolific users of observation Haki. As good as Oda's foreshadowing is, and how closely knit the continuity of One Piece is, there are slight imperfections to the masterpiece. Though Conqueror's Haki is foreshadowed here, the appearance of the other two forms of Haki later on in the story makes a few plot holes in Romance Dawn. For instance, after Ben Beckman kicked Bandit ass, a frightened Higuma uses a smoke bomb to escape. A smoke bomb. Observation Haki would have rendered this useless. A more glaring plot hole is Shanks losing his arm to a Sea King. Armament Haki would have meant a lot of the coast needing dentures. Even without Haki, this is a Sea King defeated by Chapter 1 Luffy, so... It could be argued that Shanks and crew could have been up-and-coming rookies at this time, but that wouldn't hold true because they were powerful enough to defeat the Cypherpole's Kitty. But it is also possible that Shanks and crew and Who's Who had not developed Haki yet. But again, this would be hard to believe. Shanks was 27 during romancedawn. He was an apprentice in Roger's ship at around 9 years. That is almost 20 years as an active pirate, fighting many a battle, including battles with Mihawk, which echo throughout the Grand Line, as per Whitebeard. But you will not hear me complain, because without the drama provided due to hawklessness, I may not have been hooked to One Piece, which is, as mentioned before, a masterpiece nonetheless. Now, final thoughts on romancedawn. As the chapter ends 10 years later, with Luffy setting out to sea and straight into a whirlpool, it ends having more than accomplished its purpose of making you want to know what is next, and wanting to pick up the next issue of Shonen Jump. Moreover, the chapter truly conveys the love that the author has for his story and the pirate genre, and furthermore instills some of that in the readers. Simply, a great chapter foreshadowing the greater stuff to come. Greater stuff like the character we'll be analysing next, Shanks' childhood bestie Buggy the Clown. Is he secretly the most powerful man in all of One Piece? Has his nose always been that red and big? Well, tune in next time to find out. For now, I'll leave you with a song.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. It'll make you happy too.